It's really infuriating, Harris, because we never had what I and many others called for, which is a completely objective, independent assessment of the COVID policies that were implemented to see what worked and what didn't. We never had that. And so as a result, we're now back to these absurd, preposterous kind of witchcraft and voodoo masquerading as public health from these tin pot fascists and their authoritarianism, exactly as Rand Paul was talking about. We have to resist this. We have to resist it at every level.
Exactly as Rand Paul was talking about. Rand Paul, who, by the way, is not an expert in viral infectious diseases. But we're back to the GOP having temper tantrums over wearing masks as COVID cases are soaring. There's been a steady uptick in cases since July, and reports of worrisome new variants have fueled concern that the virus is poised to make a comeback this fall and winter. So let's get into some reporting from the New York Times about that. Hospital admissions for COVID increased by about 16% in the week ending August 26 compared with the previous week, but the 17,400 new admissions were less than half the number in the same period last year and about 1/5 the number in 2021. Deaths from COVID increased by nearly 18% over the previous week, but the numbers remained relatively low, averaging just over 600 deaths per week in August, compared with about 3,000 per week in late August 2022 and about 14,000 per week in late August 2021. People continuing to choose not to wear a mask because it defies their freedom, but would rather choose to, die needlessly of a disease, continues to escape any sense of rationality. But now experts have offered reassurances that the country is not going to see a return to nightmarish scenarios of previous years. Dr. Dan Baruch said that what I think we're seeing is the virus continuing to evolve and then leading to waves of infection, hopefully mostly mild in severity. The Biden administration has said that that rather than periodic boosters, Americans now should expect to receive a single COVID shot each fall, much like the annual flu vaccine. This year's COVID vaccines may be available as early as next week, when advisors to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are scheduled to review data and issue recommendations for use. Now, the Biden White House has also said that they will not issue federal mandates or lockdowns or mask mandates, and are leaving it completely to the states. However, that hasn't stopped conservatives from reminding us how unbearable they were during the height of COVID by criticizing states like New York that are providing masks to schools. Let's watch this.
COVID lockdowns killed businesses, tore apart communities, and stunted our kids' education. And now they're talking about doing it again. So let me be clear. As long as I'm governor, Arkansas will never lock down. We will not close our schools, our churches, or our businesses. We will never make you or your children wear a mask.
Every Republican governor, every mayor, all the way down to city council. Okay, if Joe Biden looks like he's gonna try to bring back COVID tyranny, I'm here to tell you, you are on the firmest of possible constitutional authority when Joe Biden tries to bring back his COVID tyranny to tell the CDC under Joe Biden to go pound sand.
Lunatics are trying very hard to bring back COVID lockdowns and mandates with all of their sudden fear-mongering about the new variants that are coming. These are bad people. These are sick people we're dealing with. But to every COVID tyrant who wants to take away our freedom, hear these words: we will not comply.
Now, Maz, of course, it's super frustrating to hear these idiots proclaim these ridiculous statements about, anti-lockdowns, anti-masks, anti-public safety. But what really gets to me is I was reading a USA Today article about COVID, and they were interviewing people and their thoughts on COVID, and they interviewed a woman who's a mother of 7 who has had COVID 5 times. 5 times, and she was just insistent that she will never wear a mask because it's tyrannical. And the real world, I mean, you don't get COVID 5 times and have no lasting health issues. I'm sorry, you're shortening your lifespan because Donald Trump told you that masks equals tyranny. It's so upsetting.
Well, first of all, the first lockdown happened under Donald Trump, and a lot of that stuff was happening under Donald Trump. So for him to flip it and all of a sudden be like, these people are sick and they're this and they're that, it's like, you're the guy who did the lockdown, number one. Number two, for Sarah Huckabee Sanders to say there'll never be another lockdown in Arkansas. There's 5 people in Arkansas. It's like they can go without masks, like, cause you'd be like, just you stand on that side of the state, I'll be on this side of the state, and we won't get each other sick. New York City and a lot of these other cities are very dense, and we need public safety measures. Now, Steve Hilton early on in the first clip you showed from Fox, he was saying there was never an independent study that showed what worked, what didn't work. I'm sure there were studies, and I'm sure even if there were a quote unquote independent study that said that masks work, Steve Hilton would come up with another argument and say, well, that independent study was funded by someone who one time high-fived George Soros, so clearly they want us to wear masks. I don't know what this hesitation is to wear masks. You don't want to wear a mask? Don't wear a mask. But the fact is that we live in what you guys want and what we call a capitalistic society. So a lot of the places that tell you you have to wear a mask are businesses. And these people, again, purport to support business and the independence and the decision making of a company. And so if a company tells you no mask, no service, that's their choice, and it's your choice not to wear a mask. Don't go to CVS, don't go to Pete's Coffee, don't go to Starbucks, don't go wherever they say we're not gonna serve you. They're very hypocritical in their thinking. I'm not a scientist. I don't know the absolute effects of a mask, but I do know when I wear a mask, I think from what I've heard and read that it helps not spread the illness, especially if you are feeling sick, you help protect others. So, and by the way, one last thing I will say, this is very, very similar to the argument they make when they talk about the government's coming to take your guns. Government ain't coming to take your guns. Like that second guy, I don't know who the guy was after Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was like, if you think you're coming to put a mask on my face, you got another thing coming. You're gonna go pound dirt, sir. It's like, really, dude? No one, listen, this thing of like the mandates coming back is not a real thing right now. We're saying that there's an uptick. We're saying that, you may want to choose to wear a mask. We're saying that different businesses may choose to make you wear a mask, but there's no, Joe Biden knows it's not a popular move to turn around tomorrow and be like, everyone's on lockdown, mask mandate because we have a 10% uptick or whatever it is. He knows it's not a popular idea. It ain't coming, but these guys are trying to stand tough and be like, we're here to defend you because they're coming to put a mask on your face. Ain't nobody coming.
Maz, you fail to consider that it's my constitutional right to hang out in the lobby of a Bank of America without a mask on, actually. And anyone who tries to take that away from me is stealing my freedom.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.